Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Steelers Sanctuary podcast. I'm your host, Dave Rivero from SteelersSanctuary.com. And this week, we've got Tony Serino subbing in for us. Hi, Tony. What's going on?
Hey, how you doing? Happy to be on.
Good, good. I guess the elephant in the room is the Steelers injury report today.
Oof, yikes.
Ooh, is it brutal, huh? So players out: Cam Sutton, Ahkello Witherspoon, Levi Wallace, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Pat Freiermuth, and the surprise one, DeMarvin Leal. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I guess that just popped up as a knee that he must have tweaked that on either Thursday or Friday during practice. I guess it probably would have been Friday, right? Because he would have popped up on Thursday's report as limited if he had gone out of the practice in that one. So yeah.
Oh, brutal, man. That's pretty much the entire secondary, short of Terrell Edmonds, who's coming off a concussion. So even he's not like
right, exactly. But the one guy Steeler fans were ready to bail out on during the offseason. Remember there was that 3-week period of who are they going to sign to replace Terrell Edmonds? And now Steeler fans are just hoping and praying that he is the key to beating Tom Brady on Sunday.
Oh God, we're in a lot of trouble. We talked a little bit before we got on this pod. I don't remember ever a Steelers game ever that I had less hope for than this one coming up. I don't. The path to victory, I just don't see it.
You bring a path to victory there, and I don't know that there's a path to victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers, period. But we can talk about that later. For this one in particular, I mean, I think all of us, anyone who's been watching the Steelers for more than like 3 years knows that Tom Brady, for the last 20 years, has absolutely owned this team. I mean, the Steelers have gotten their wins here and there. They should have got one in 2017. Jesse caught it. But, but by and large, this has been a one-sided affair. And it's been one in which, Tom Brady hasn't just beaten the Steelers. He's embarrassed them time and time again. We can all remember when he got into, was it Anthony Smith was the kid's name that he got into his face?
I had forgotten about that. Oh my God.
Remember that? So, just thinking about that and then thinking about where the Steeler team is right now at 1-4 and all the problems that they have. And then you throw into this, you throw the injury report on top of it and the fact that all the injuries are in the secondary. What's his name? I'm trying to think of some of the bad corners of Steeler old. Can we get them back? Can we get some of those guys can
we get Joe Hayden out of retirement quick? Quick.
And what's Joe doing? Listen, I know Joe was saying he's happy, but like Joe, one more week. Just give me one more week.
I guess they got sort of good news from Najee Harris. He
well.
He's got the metal plate out of his shoe now, and he says he's 100%. First of all, how do you play an NFL football game with a metal plate in your shoe?
I have a theory on this.
Give it to me, please, because
I'm so
bewildered.
Look, Najee is taking up a mantle that left us in the offseason, right? I mean, there's always a player on the team who had to bring up every injury they ever had. And that was Ben Roethlisberger. Right? Everybody knew Ben. Hey, listen, my shoulder was really hurting in this one. No, I was banged up in this one. I've liked Najee throughout the year of like just playing up every injury he's had. I mean, clearly, look, we could all tell from watching. I listened to you guys last week on the show.
Yeah.
It's fairly obvious. Something's been up with Najee Harris. He does not look like the same player. The burst was always a problem for him. But whatever you would give his burst rating in Madden, like it has been halved. It has been halved this season, if not more. So it's fairly clear something's wrong. Now, does the plate coming out unlock some new version of Najee Harris that's going to be quick to the hole and decisive and not trying to bounce everything outside and more trusting of the guys in front of him? I'm not optimistic, but I certainly, like you said, I think it's probably good news that he's getting healthier, if maybe not fully healthy.
Yeah, so you're saying Drama Ben is gone, but Drama Najee has taken his place. Here we go.
You gotta have that. Great. You gotta have that. It's a key cog in the Steelers' wheel.
I mean, we'd be lost without it, right?
Right.
We wouldn't know what to do with ourselves.
Well, we got Cam. We've also been missing for many years now, a couple of years. Someone just tweeting really stupid things, right? And Cam Hayward said, "Hey, I will help you out. I will retweet someone who is bashing my coach." And also praising me, but by praising me, also bashing all of my defensive teammates. But he butt tweeted it, Dave. He butt tweeted.
Oh my God.
I mean, who amongst us hasn't accidentally been on a tweet that that was
Bad
bashing
mouth
our
our
coach.
boss.
Yeah, and then accidentally click the tweet button and then accidentally click the confirm tweet button. Right? I mean, who amongst us haven't done that? That's
I mean,
so
Tony,
common.
we all know what happens there, right? He only read the part where it
He only read
praised
the
him,
second half. Yeah,
and
he only read the second.
retweets it, and then everyone starts coming at him, and he's got to backtrack and make up a story. And
Even the second half of that tweet's not good though. I mean, like the second half of that tweet is kind of bashing the rest of his teammates when he says like Cam's the only one out there trying. Like even him retweeting that is still a little like, what's going on in that locker room?
And coming from a player who hasn't had a sack since, hasn't made much of an impact since TJ Watt got hurt. I mean, that's not exactly what you want to see.
I mean, this is the problem for Cam, right? Is every year it's, you look at his age and you're like, boy, is he still going to be, an all pro type player, going into, the further we get into his 30s. I think this year, like, I don't think he's having necessarily a bad year, but like you said, as far as like true impact, all pro type of player. Yeah, we're starting. I think it's fairly obvious. Like we're now on the downside. It's not necessarily bad yet, but we're on the downside.
Who'd have thought 2 mid-30s defensive tackles wouldn't be advantageous to this team in 2022? Who'd have
you taken your victory lap yet about Tyson Alualu? Because you were dead on with that one.
I've worn a hole in the floor from taking my victory lap on that one, buddy. It's
victory marathon.
That's more like it. Buccaneers have a few players banged up. Sean Murphy Bunting, Logan Ryan, and Akeem Hicks are all out. Julio Jones is doubtful. That should be his middle name right now. Julio Doubtful Jones.
Yeah, they won't need him.
They won't need him. Let's be honest. All right, let's just jump right into it. Let's start with the Steelers defense versus the Bucs offense. You were bringing up the Tom Brady stuff, and I wrote a couple of stats down. He's 9-3 lifetime against the Steelers. 29 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. How's that for a ratio?
Yeah.
68.8 completion percentage against the Steelers, and he's got 3 games with at least 4 touchdowns. And he's coming in against the JV secondary this week.
Right. It's going to be a disaster. It's going to be a disaster. And if it's not, and there's always these weird games, Dave, where, you'll get into a game, you have an idea of how it's going to play out. And then like Tomlin will pull a hat out, pull a rabbit out of a hat. It's like, the only way to think about this game in a positive light is to imagine some sort of like, but what if Tomlin did a Tomlin thing? Because otherwise, when you start breaking on the X's and O's, this is a disaster, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, and I have zero confidence that Tomlin or anyone on this defensive coaching staff is going to come up with a game plan to make a difference in this game. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time seeing it. I mean, Flores knows Brady. I mean, he coached with him. He coached against him in Miami. But we could have said the same thing about Buffalo. And how did that work out? I mean, he didn't coach for Buffalo, but he coached against Buffalo long enough to have any insight or inside information. And there's not enough bodies.
No, there's not enough bodies. And the bodies that they do have are, these are guys who you could just imagine Josh Jackson is going to have the worst. He's going to have the worst experience because guys like that, right? Where Tom, especially, and guys like Arthur Mollett too, right? In the nickel, who is, and I enjoy Arthur Mollett when he's playing in that kind of Mike Hilton-y around the line of scrimmage type of role where he can come downhill. But when you start getting him in coverage, I mean, that's where he's at his absolute worst. We know James Pierre's not great with the ball in the air. We saw that last week on the kickoff. By the way, love Tomlin. And I'm a big James Pierre guy. I've always defended James. Now he's not a good football player, but the fact that it was James Pierre who was returning that kick is just one of those like head scratching. Why? Because he's only returned 3 kicks ever in college. I was at training camp for the majority of camp. I don't remember him returning a kick in all of camp. And like his worst attribute as a corner is his ability to play the ball in the air. So it's just like he checks every box. Like, yeah, this guy should not be returning kicks.
I mean, you bypassed 5 wide receivers, 3 running backs.
Yeah, Benny Snell. Remember, Benny Snell used to return kicks.
Yes.
Benny Snell used to return. As much as we all don't like Benny Snell, he's on the roster and he used to return kicks. But he's too good as an up man. That's the thing. He's just you couldn't.
The whole thing mystified me from the beginning. I guess we learned that somehow Steven Sims got hurt between when they announced the inactives and game time.
Yeah.
And so we hear
the ball to the eye. Kenny, everybody says about Kenny's arm strength. Hey, listen, Kenny's arm strength, Kenny's arm took Steven Sims' eye out.
So, all right, he can't return the kickoff, but I think he was out on the third play of the game
Yeah, miraculous
as a
recovery there, wasn't it?
receiver.
I mean, I suppose like, he could have had like blurry vision. And I guess it could have recovered enough to like, screw it, you can go out there. Maybe it was
Yeah,
like a
that-
precautionary thing at the beginning. And then Tomlin goes, oh, well, yeah, that was a strange one though. Yeah. Cause you're right. He was out there pretty quick. I mean, like very next kickoff, it wasn't, it was right to him.
Who makes
So
that decision? Is it Tomlin says, no, we got to have James Pierre? Did he override the special teams?
now I think it's got to be, he's got to be going to Danny Smith, and Danny Smith makes that call. But I do, well, here's the other thing, because Kozora brought this up, in Steeler history, they usually have they ever had a return man as a defensive player? They don't, right?
No,
Tomlin doesn't like that. He doesn't like defensive guys being return men. And, Cam Sutton, I've seen a ton. Cam Sutton is a very good return guy as far as like when he does that, they do this stupid drill, and it's not a drill. It's like a little game that they play before practice starts.
Catch all the punts there.
Yeah. How many can they catch, right? Cam Sutton's always usually pretty good in that. So Cam could have been back there. I mean, there's like, we could go over, you and I could probably name 20 guys on the roster before we got to James Pierre.
And Tomlin said he was next up in line in his press conference, or was in the. You were at training camp. You didn't see it. I've heard other people say the same thing.
Didn't see it. And you know what's funny about it is it's just this kind of domino effect. We talk about the injury stuff, right? I mean, this is a domino effect of the Steelers signed an all-pro, right? So we can't criticize like, wow, Gunner was a bad pick, because this guy was an all-pro. I mean, he was legitimately one of the best return men in football a year ago. But somehow, some way, he gets to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this guy can't hold on to the football anymore. So they have to bench him, which I think we all thought was the right decision, right? His domino effect of like the right decision to bench your all-pro guy, because he's not an all-pro anymore. And then your next in line is Steven Sims, who we were all excited to see because he had some nice returns in preseason. He takes a ball to the eye, and then they're like, okay, we end up with James Pierre. It's just a very silly situation.
Only in Pittsburgh, right? I mean,
only in Pittsburgh. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we all wanted to see Steven Sims. We're all excited about it. What happened to Gunner?
I don't know.
Even in the preseason, he was good, and then as soon as the lights go on for the regular season,
you know what it was? As soon as the light was on. It was as soon as they played a certain team, Dave. It was as soon as they played a certain team. His former team, New England. He just happens. Oh, oopsies! I'm fielding a punt at the goal line against my former team, and oopsies! I forgot how to catch. Muff that one for the loss.
Conspiracy theory on me. I'm gonna love this.
Oh yeah, no, this is total tinfoil hat, Tony. But man.
I listened to your YouTube this last one, and you weren't too concerned about Leonard Fournette. You didn't seem like. I'm terrified of Leonard Fournette against the Pittsburgh. He just seems to. I don't know if it's the colors black and yellow or what gets him going.
I hate Leonard Fournette. I've always hated Leonard Fournette. I've always thought he was one of the most overrated running backs, even when he came out of college. I have this dumb theory about running backs that if you're too tall, you can't be a good running back, right? Like anything over 6 feet tall, you just like that's like disqualifying to me. It's not a real thing because we have plenty of guys like Derrick Henry, pretty tall.
Yeah,
but I've always just like I always thought he was like bang average. Everyone got on. Oh, when the Jags cut him, it was like this disaster that the Jags cut him, and I thought like, no, this is and of course they upgraded to James Robinson. But no, I think Fournette in this game, I'm not worried about him, Dave. I'm terrified that I'm actually gonna have to watch this guy carve up this Steeler defense, because as much as he's not gotten going, I mean, they have the worst run game in the league. If you look at any of the advanced numbers, they have one of the worst in the league. But I don't think, with the way this Steeler defense is going right now, what was it? The rookie last week, just had all of a sudden just, ran out a 30-yarder at the end there.
Tony, how do you explain
I'm worried that Leonard Fournette's going to carve up this defense for sure.
Yeah. How do we explain this? It's been, what is this? A decade of not being able to figure out how to stop the run for this team. Short of 2019 and 2020, when I always go back to, that was an all-star defense. Like it was an all-star at every position almost.
Yep.
This has been an ongoing thing with this defense. They can't stop the run. They're always, if I hear one more thing about, we got to get our line fits and we got to make sure we hit our gaps right. We're not hitting our gaps. We're not doing our assignments. This is a decade running. We got run a second defensive coordinator. What? Yeah.
It is a little bit baffling. That game against Cleveland was maybe, I don't know, how do you feel? Was that more disheartening because it was the Browns and because they did it the way that they did than it was than the Bills game? I mean, I know the Bills was a massive blowout, but like you kind of expected that. Watching Cleveland go in against a run defense was like, all right, this is it. We fixed the running game this year. Like this is the test. And the fact that it was just so easy and the Steelers were playing on their heels the entire game. I'm with you, man. I don't get it because I thought Miles Jack was going to be a big addition this season. And I think he's been good, but like nowhere near the impact player that I thought he could be. And then, guys like Ogunjobi, I mean, I was never big on like Ogunjobi's going to fix the running game, but even still, like there's just, I don't know how many more pieces they can change out, right? Because like what is the next fix? You're not going to bench Cam Hayward to fix the running game. I mean, Cam's good against the run, right? I mean, Devin Bush is not a good player, but even like, are they a one inside linebacker away from fixing the run? Is it a nose tackle issue? Is it the second D lineman? How many players away are they?
I have two theories. The first one is they're caught between two minds, right? They want defensive tackles that can penetrate and can be pass rushers. So they kind of devalue the run stopping nose tackle because they believe it's out of the game, which largely it is. But when you run this kind of defense, you need at least one defensive tackle that can plug the middle, give them something, because Ogunjobi and Cam Hayward, those are not run stuffers. Those are penetrating, it doesn't work when a team commits to the run against them. It doesn't work. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I'm with you, man. And you look around the league. I know that we went through that phase of like nose tackles. There's basically a dead position and everything, but like they've, much like, there's an ebb and flow to everything. You got the DJ Readers of the world now who are, you look at what he's doing in Cincinnati. I mean, he is a dominant player. And he is, kind of a two-down player. I mean, the Ravens just got Travis Jones. I mean, he's not, he's not playing big minutes yet, but I think we all know once Travis, once they lock in on that kid, like he's going to be another monster in the middle for them over there. And then Jordan Davis over there in Philly, like this is
it's come back.
Come
full circle. Yeah.
Yep. So, Jalen Carter from Georgia, I hear good things about him as a DT. Look forward to the Steelers taking him. What do you think? Third, fourth overall next year?
Man, you know what they're going to do? You know what they're going to do, Tony. They're going to rattle off a couple wins in the second half and end up 13 to 20, like they always are.
I keep hearing this theory. I just wonder, like, where are those wins coming and how? Because I think when TJ comes back, the defense is going to get better. But he's not going to be 100%. We're not getting 100% TJ Watt.
That's a good counterpoint to that. If he's not 100%, then forget it. Because my other theory is TJ Watt absolves all sins on the Steelers. I think it's almost the whole team. Like he covers up for the terrible game planning and coaching they have. He covers up for mediocre teammates on defense. He covers up for mediocre offense because he's creating turnovers and sacks, and he absolves all sin. I mean, when you talk about a most valuable player, TJ Watt to me is the epitome of that honor.
I agree. And I'll agree with you in this way, because one thing I used to get on the Steelers a lot, that even before TJ, they were leading the league in sacks. The thing I always said at the time was, okay, they lead the league in sacks, but when you really need pressure, when you really need to get to the quarterback and make a play late in a football game, I mean, all the pass rush to the Steelers, all this, they're the best sack team in the league, disappeared. Yeah. But when TJ got on there, we can look at multiple games last year that were, I wouldn't say they were single-handedly won by TJ Watt, but he made monster plays at the end of games, Seattle, Chicago, right? I mean, those were big games for him at the end, that he was able to make big plays to, at the end to essentially seal victory. They don't have that guy right now. And it's, not that they would be in a game in the fourth quarter to seal a victory. Oh, I guess the Jets game, maybe they win the Jets game if TJ's in there, right?
I think they win the Jets and the Patriots if he plays, to be honest with you.
The Patriots game was such a stupid game.
It's brutal. I mean, I can't watch another loss to the Patriots. I'm here in New England, as you know. I live in Massachusetts.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
It's just brutal. And this was my year. Yeah. No Brady. No, Mac Jones stinks. And I thought this was going to be the year. And then, of course, TJ gets hurt. And, of course, Bill Belichick coaches circles around everybody. And next thing you know, they're losing the game. It's just.
That was an awful one to watch, because that was one where at the time it felt like the Steelers were the better team, but they just, it's a classic, like you said, it's a classic Belichick game where he just felt like he had the upper hand from a coaching perspective, and then really stupid things happen throughout the game, right? Namely that ridiculous muffed punt at the 5-yard line to essentially give the Patriots a free 7 points.
It just happened. I don't know. It just happens against that team. Just bad things.
Yeah.
Consistently happen. I don't know.
It's like, you say some teams have the other team's number, right? But I don't know that I look at anything in that game and say like, well, the one thing I think Belichick did late in that game is he understood that Canada is really bad. Like Canada's offense is really bad at hot reads and understanding like, if a blitz is coming, where are we going? Because we're just going to check it down to Najee. And so he did that late. Like Belichick understood that late in the game and on those third down situations, basically got Trubisky to go where Belichick wanted to, and the rest is history.
We talk about it all the time on this podcast. Predictable. Both sides of the ball. Predictable. Yeah. It's, Matt Canada, Kozora kills him and he does a great job with it. It's like, it's the same 10 plays over and over and over again.
And they're not challenging any, nothing is deep down the field that's challenging any sort of safety looks, right? So everything is, it's kind of like, okay, if they're going to run any sort of concepts, you'd be like slant flat or mesh, or, they're going to run a little seal concept, but nothing's really challenging in like a true high-low. We're going to challenge you down the football field and win some things underneath. And then, like you said, from a tendency perspective, I don't have the numbers in front of me to prove it, but people ask all the time, like, why is the running game so bad? Is it the offensive line? Is it the running game? I mean, or is it the running back? I mean, I think the offensive line's not great, and certainly Najee doesn't have a burst. But I also think that when you watch play action versus pass, I think defenses know what are coming a lot of the time. And Nate Tice has pointed this out. Watch the way when the Steelers run motion. Generally, when they run motion, when it's true motion, it's a running play. And when it's a pass play, they want it to be very static. And so, if that's the case, I mean, this is a very much a Cincinnati thing, right? Cincinnati had this whole tendency where whenever they were in shotgun, it was a pass. Whenever they were under center, it's a run. And they just could not get Joe Mixon going until last week when they started to run the ball out of shotgun. If it's easy to figure out, it's just like, hey, if there's motion, it's a run. And that's like, this is high school stuff.
Yeah. And teams have picked up on it. You're right. They seem to know what's coming. And just react to it. It doesn't give anybody, like you said, even though Najee's hurt, he doesn't have a chance half the time. These teams are just dialed into what the Steelers do. And there's no deception or even concepts where you try to set things up. It's just nothing.
Right. I think it was Adam Steele had a tweet the other night, last night against the Bears when he was saying, Matt Canada's never schemed someone that open as the tight end was in the flat, the one that Justin Fields missed last night. And I was like, Matt Canada doesn't scheme anybody open. What are the best plays in this offense right now? What are the best plays you can remember this season? It is generally speaking a wide receiver making a spectacular catch in one-on-one. It is Deontay in one-on-one winning. It is Pickens making some kind of crazy catch on a back shoulder or the one-handed one, right? It's not guys running free. It's not like, wow, what a crazy concept that they held that safety and then Deontay came underneath, right? Wide open with a run after catch. I looked this up the other day because I wanted to see how much run after catch do the Steelers have this year. It will surprise no one to know this, but they are like a bottom 3 team in run after catch because nothing that they're doing is setting up these receivers to be run after catch. It is basically go out there, beat the man in front of you, because otherwise this offense has nothing going for it.
That's criminal when you think of the wide receivers that they put on the field right now, that they are bottom 3 in the league in run after catch. When you have Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and George Pickens, it's criminal. Yeah. Here's the question. How long can they stick with Matt Canada? How long can they stick with this?
Well, they don't fire offensive coordinators, right? They didn't fire Haley. They didn't fire Fiechner. And I've heard, I don't know this to be a fact, but I've heard that Canada has one more year left on that contract after this one.
Oh my, they can't go another year. They absolutely cannot go another year.
Well, you ready to watch the Mike Sullivan era then? Are you ready to watch Mike Sullivan take over as OC?
That's what I told my partner.
Going, right? I mean, there's no...
They need to go outside the organization, but they won't. Yeah, I looked up Mike Sullivan. His best years were OC for the Giants when he had Manning and that whole thing going. I don't know. He's not the answer either. Give me somebody new, please.
But okay, let me ask you this though. Let's go back to Randy Fiechner. Like, okay, Haley leaves town, has to leave because everyone hates Todd Haley. Right. I'm saying, like, not that the fans hated it. I mean, I know fans didn't like the play calling at times. I thought he was a good play designer, frustrating as a play caller at times. The pitch against the Jaguars on 4th and 1 will always live in my memory as one of the dumbest.
He's the best offensive coordinator since
Whisenhunt.
Probably Whisenhunt. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're probably right. Yep.
because I didn't really like Arians. I mean, I know Arians went on to do nice things, but I thought Arians as a Steelers offensive coordinator, the big chunk style that he wanted, he just got Ben killed. Ben would have played like 5 less years.
They had to move off him.
Yeah. So okay, so they get rid of Haley, they get Fichtner in. Now Fichtner makes sense because it's Ben's, they're BFFs, and like Ben's not going to retire now because you hired someone he likes. But the style of offense that they ran with Fichtner was very much a conservative, short passing game, catch and run, get rid of the ball quickly, right? And we're going to do that. That was very much the Fichtner style. Then they bring in Matt Canada. And I think a lot of people expected, okay, at least when you look at Canada and what he ran at Pitt and what he ran in college, this is going to be different from Fichtner, right? They're at least going to do some interesting things as far as play action and moving the pocket and potentially challenging down the field. And instead, like, it is different than Fichtner, but conceptually, as far as like, is it more aggressive than Fichtner? No, it is not, right? We're still dealing with the same conservative style of offense. And so if we're talking about next year getting a new offensive coordinator, the first thing that I think needs to change is that they have to want to be aggressive offensively. I don't think Matt Canada came in and told Mike, like, I want to run a conservative offense, right? I want to run super conservative, and we're never going to take chances. I know my quarterbacks are over the middle of the field, right? We're not going to challenge down the field. I think Mike Tomlin told Matt Canada, and the reason why Matt Canada got the job is because he understood what Tomlin wanted, said, I can scheme an offense that's better than what Fichtner's doing, but still the level of conservative that you want, we're not going to screw it up. We're going to win games defensively. Our offense won't screw it up. So until Tomlin gets it out of his mind that, hey, we're just going to be super conservative offense, this is the style of play. They can change the plays, they can change the concepts, but the style of play is going to be the same, I believe, until Mike Tomlin decides, I want an offense that should be aggressive.
Tony, you took the words out of my mouth. Mike Tomlin's imprint on both sides of the ball is overbearing. He is the guy. And I get it, he's the head coach, but when things aren't working, and they haven't been working, you have to let your coordinators do what they do best. I mean, we all know he's completely in charge of the defense,
right?
100%. I mean, me and my partner talked about it. He slipped in that press conference. Oh, I didn't have time to decide the timeout because I was getting the defense ready to.
Yeah. Thank goodness he said it, because I didn't. If I had to deal with another 4 years of is Mike Tomlin calling the plays, my head will explode.
Nothing's changed with Austin, and now, like your point is, I really do believe that he has told Matt Canada, I want an offense that's conservative, that moves the chains carefully, so my defense, Mike Tomlin's defense, can carry the team,
right.
And I don't believe Mike Tomlin is capable of calling a defense worthy of a winning football. I just don't think he's capable of that anymore. I don't think he ever was, to be honest with you. But he's certainly not now. I mean, we've got, like I said, a decade of evidence that this defense has been flawed since the Super Bowl years. There's always something. They've averaged 45 points a game in the playoffs the last 3 seasons. They always seem to be out-coached, out-schemed, out everything.
Yeah. Last year's defensive performance in the playoffs, you're outmatched against Mahomes. I'll give them this in that game. If they had a better offense, I suppose they could have been better, but because remember, that defense was literally up 7-0 against Patrick Mahomes. I mean, like, by themselves. The offense, I don't even think they had a first down yet before TJ Watt scored that touchdown. I don't know that I hold so much against that, like last year's defensive performance against Tomlin, because it did feel like at some point the dam's going to break, and then boy, did it ever. Obviously, the Cleveland game was a disaster, and certainly the defensive performance in that one, and then the Jaguars one as well. I don't know. I'll disagree with you on. I mean, I don't know that Mike Tomlin can't be a good defensive coordinator. I think this year's defense could have been, if TJ doesn't get hurt, their alternate reality version of this year's Steeler team where TJ doesn't get hurt. I mean, you lose your best defensive player, you lose your defensive player of the year, you're going to have a fall off. But what they did against Cincinnati, and I said this on like every show I was on, I thought that was a legendary all-time. I thought I would never see this style of defense ever again, because remember, not only was that a like 5 turnover dominant defensive performance, but they had to do it without the benefit of the offense contributing basically anything. In 100 defensive plays, we talk a lot, modern football is very much like complimentary, right? Whenever there's a good defense and they do something wrong, everyone goes, well, they're tired. Oh, they're tired. They're too tired, right? Okay, fine. I mean, I get in the modern style, it's played sideline to sideline and end zone to end zone, right? So like we're using the full field. It's not like it was in the 90s where it's, it's like we're just going to draw this little box, right? And that's where we play the game. I get it. Defense has changed, and I've had to recalibrate my brain for how I think about dominant defense, right? Because I grew up in the 90s, man. I grew up with Blitzburg, going into like the 2000 Ravens defense, going into the 2005 Steeler defense, 2008 Steeler defense. Those were truly dominant defenses. We'll never see those again. But I thought what they did in week 1 was like the modern version of that, where quite literally defense, you have to win this game by yourself. And I thought the game plan that they came in with, the execution of it, I thought it was an all-timer. Obviously, TJ gets hurt, and boy, the 3 games since then have not been pretty. So yeah, I don't know that I don't know that I don't trust Tomlin anymore. I didn't trust Tomlin for a long time. I think he kind of, I know you called it an all-star defense, and I'm sure that that's going to be your pushback there on 2019 and 2020. But I think for me, 2019, 2020 was like, all right, those were really good defenses.
I can't give it to him. I can't go over in your head that team. You just acquired Minkah, who played out of his mind, like Pro Bowl level safety. You've got the best year out of Bud Dupree you ever had.
Yep.
You've got, of course, TJ Watt. You've got Hargrave. You've got Hayward. You've got Tuitt in his prime. There's a Pro Bowler at every level. They had so much talent on that. You had 2 good veteran corners, Hayden and Steven Nelson, solid veteran corners. There was no weakness on that defense. There just wasn't.
There wasn't. No, there wasn't. But it was. I mean, it was every bit as dominant as it should have been, right? Like my thing with coaching is like coaching players either to their level or beyond it. Like bad coaches will take talent and get the worst out of it. And I think from Tomlin's perspective, like for those 2 years, the 2 years that they had, and even last year's pass defense, I don't think was as bad. Obviously, the run defense was a totally different story. But it's those 2 defenses, I mean, those were, look, they played to the level they should have, which is they were like the top defense or the top 3 defense in the National Football League for those 2 seasons. And really, when you think about the modern game, right, you can't have a great defense now without having talent. I mean, you're just not coach. You just, I mean, when you're going up against Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, there's no amount of like, all right, Trey Norwood, here's what you got to do, right? Like, there's no amount of coaching Trey Norwood, a 4-6 safety, when you're going up against some of these modern offenses. And that's the issue that Tomlin's having these days.
Yeah, there's a baseline, and you're right. I mean, he's not an awful defensive coordinator. I don't want to go too far off because I'm a Mike Tomlin fan, and my theory is if he hired competent coordinators and let them do their job and just was the CEO of the team, sure, you can put your imprint on the defense and on the offense. You're the head coach, great, but let them do their job. His hirings at offensive coordinator is gotten to the point of epically bad now. It's gone from bad to worse to bottom of the barrel now. Matt Canada is an epically bad offensive coordinator. They don't have a wide receiver with a catching touchdown yet, a receiving touchdown.
You're so right on this. And this to me is, well, there's a bunch of criticisms about Tomlin that we can go over today because I have a ton. I think he's a coward as an in-game manager, and I think he proved that last week with the sad field goals. I'm so glad Boswell missed them, by the way. I know people are getting on Boswell like, is something wrong with Boswell? Like, no. I want to give Boswell a raise after he misses those 2 field goals because how dare you, Mike Tomlin, in an NFL football game, kick a sad field goal like I'm watching friggin' Hawaii play Michigan. Okay, I mean, I understand when you're like a Division II team playing a Big Ten team that we just got to get points because we don't want it to get out of hand. But it's an NFL team. It's a Pittsburgh team. It's the most winning franchise of all time. We're kicking field goals down 21 in the second quarter. Give me a break. Don't live in our fears. We don't live in our fears.
Yeah,
what
the
do you
coach
say?
who coined
I want
that
to be
phrase.
thoughtfully aggressive. I want to be thoughtfully aggressive. Hey, how about Mike? How about you one time in your career just be aggressively aggressive? Because I've like yet to see it. Remember, this is the guy who punted on 4th and 1 against Cleveland during that comeback in the playoff game. Now you got me hot because there's
a long list of stuff, and I think it goes back to instead of being the CEO and sitting back and being the head coach, he's too busy trying to coach the defense and make sure Canada's conservative enough and not focused on what his main concern should be at the game. Let your coordinators coach and be the head coach.
And the coordinator thing that you hit on before, this is what I wanted to, before I went on that rant about the in-game management. No, the coordinator point is a great one, because this has been a thing that's been brought up. Really, I mean, Mike Tomlin has been in the league for how many years now? Are we on we're on year 15, something like that? I mean, it's 2006 to 22, 2007 to 22. What is his coaching tree? We're 15 years in. What is his coaching tree? Who has gone on? Bruce Arians is it. And Bruce Arians got run out of town. It wasn't like Bruce left for a head coaching job.
Yeah,
they ran Bruce out.
Yeah, they didn't get hired from the Steelers as a hot coordinator.
Right.
You're right. You got run out of town.
Right. No, the coordinator coach stuff is that is one of those things where, like, you know, talent evaluation when it comes to coaching. Is Mike Tomlin, you know, one of the things that always bothers me whenever the Steelers bring in a coach or something, it's always like, well, they have a connection to Tomlin or, you know, Maryland or Pennsylvania in some way. You know, why can't I'm cool if some guy from, you know, San Diego or something, right, all the way across the country has a really good offensive mind. He can be offensive. He doesn't need to have roots in Pittsburgh to be. You don't need to have roots in Pittsburgh to be a great offensive mind.
It's crazy. And how about this? How about we watch McVay and the 49ers coach Shanahan, and we say, hey, that looks pretty good. And then we'll watch, you know, McDaniels in Miami and Cincinnati's coach go to the Super Bowl and Green Bay's coach go to the. Are we not seeing that kind of offense take over the league? Can we go outside of the organization and grab one of anyone with a fraction of their knowledge? And I can't watch another San Francisco 49er game. It just drives me crazy because it's so inventive. And I granted Shanahan's had a spotty overall record, but his offenses are so fun to watch.
Yeah.
And McVay struggling this year, but he's already been to 2 Super Bowls. And great. If you don't like that, do something else. Please don't give me Mike Sullivan next year. Please don't give me Mike Sullivan.
Get ready for Mike Sullivan, Steelers offensive coordinator. The press release will be out January 16th of 2023.
If they go into the bye 1-7, does Canada survive?
They can't fire him. They cannot fire. Here's why. I keep seeing Steelers fans like, they got to fire Canada. You know, he said they're gonna no stone unturned is what Tomlin said, right? Yeah, okay. They can't fire Canada because imagine what that's. I mean, that's Mike Tomlin essentially indicting himself as, boy, I screwed this whole thing up. Remember, this is post Ben era. We came into this year with all this excitement about the offense because it could be anything they wanted it to be. You can have any quarterback you want, right? I mean, you know, within reason, you can pick whatever of the guys are available. You can have whatever you want. And Matt Canada, you can run whatever stuff you want to run. You certainly have enough talent at the skill positions and at running back to do some interesting things. And so what was the choice? The choice was we're going to take Mitch Trubisky in free agency, and as far as an offense, we're going to run the exact same stuff we ran last year. We're going to change almost nothing. We're going to a little more, you know, they added sprint right and sprint left to the playbook, and then they did a little more.
Because Ben couldn't
a little more play action, right? But so that's okay. So Mike Tomlin comes in and goes, I just want to take the exact same offense I had a year ago, and I just want to insert Mitch Trubisky into it, add a little more movement because he's a more mobile guy, and bang, I got myself a successful offense. And he sets up this process where he has no quarterback competition, none. Right? Remember, Kenny gets 0 first-team reps throughout training camp, and the only first-team reps he got in preseason were that one drive he had against Jacksonville. So it's basically Mike Tomlin was saying, I'm all in on Mitch Trubisky. And then 3.5 games in, put the kid in. I'm ready for the kid. So it takes him 3.5 games, even though he set up this whole process is I'm all in on Trubisky. 3.5 games later, like, well, I was wrong on that. And how many games after that you want him to fire the coordinator, where he basically then would be admitting that everything my post-Ben era was an absolute front-to-back, absolute disaster. I got it wrong from the offense I wanted to run, the quarterback that I wanted to be in there, and the guy I wanted designing the plays and calling the offense. He can't admit that. So we just all have to sit here and wait it out for this Canada thing to end. It will, but it's definitely not happening in season.
It's kind of like the Keith Butler thing all over again. If I fire Keith Butler, I have the people inside the organization know that he's in charge of the defense. So if he fires Keith Butler, he's admitting that he's a crappy defensive coordinator. So
Right.
That's why Keith Butler survived all those years.
Exactly.
It's a little bit of ego mixed in too, right? It's like, my defense will carry this team this year. All I need is an average quarterback, with a little bit more athleticism to run Matt Canada's conservative offense, and my defense will take us all the way. And that's Tomlin's ego.
You and I talked about this offseason, where we talked about this, right? Like, this style of football can get you to a certain level, but it probably can't get you over the top. And I think you and I agreed on that, right? So the biggest concern I had about a post-Ben era is, it's all exciting and stuff, but I think, Tomlin wants to kind of recreate 2019 2019 is the Duck and Mason year, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's like Tomlin's ideal season of like, oh my God, we had the greatest defense of all time. The offense if I just had a quarterback who wouldn't screw it up, we could have done great things that year, right? I mean, he just kind of wants to idyllically create that over and over again. And since then, it's been playoffs and playoffs. So from Mike Tomlin's mind, he's certainly within reason to think, oh, this is working. Oh, this is working. And maybe it was Ben at the end of his line there. So I just need to upgrade that and we can keep working on this. So luckily, reality is going to hit Tomlin in the face this year, where it's going to say, no, Mike, you actually can't sustain that level of play, right? You can't just rely on one side of the ball is going to be great / dominant, and the other side of the ball can be quote unquote bad as long as it's not, as long as it's not ruining games for us. You can't win that way. And hopefully, if there's one positive to come out of the season, it's that Mike Tomlin has to take a good, long look in the mirror and say, is the style of football that I want the Pittsburgh Steelers to be the right way for the future of this franchise? Because if this is a 3-14 season, I think he's going to have to do some real soul searching, and by the way, 3-14 is about where I think this team's going to fit, maybe 5 wins max, but I don't see them more than that.
We kind of need it, right? We need that bottom out for him to realize, because if they somehow go 7-10, God forbid, or 8-9, he pulls us out. It's status quo for 2023. Canada's back, and the whole gang's back, and nothing changes.
But if they go 7-10 from this point, that would be 6-6 from here. So 500 football from here on out. Yeah. But they would essentially be going like, they would be doing that after starting like 2-6 or 1-7, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could make the argument that if they do win 6 games down the stretch, it won't be because the defense just turns it back on and is dominant again. It will be because Kenny gets really good. And in that case, like, that's a really good look. If the Steelers end up winning 6 games because offensively Kenny starts putting up points and this team starts, winning that way, then I'll be really happy. See, I just don't believe that's going to happen because once again, I've never thought that Matt Canada or that Mitch Trubisky was the only problem. Like, you insert Canada or you insert Kenny and all of a sudden this offense is going to go scoring 20, 30 points a game. I think this offense has a real cap on it for what it can do. I think that cap is close to 20 points. If this team scores 30 this year with Kenny Pickett, I will be shocked.
I had the stats. They only scored 30 points once in the Matt Canada era, and that was Ben Roethlisberger against the Chargers, I think, last year.
Oh, it was the Chargers. Yeah, the Chargers game last year.
It was the Chargers game
when that was. Yeah.
And this is now, what do we do? 25 games of the Matt Canada era. And you can even make a point that when he was the quarterback coach for Fitchner, he had quite an influence on that offense too. They were already starting to transition out of Fitchner.
They were doing some of the more motion stuff. Yeah. They were trying to be a little more. Yeah.
You can make the argument this is almost 2.5 seasons of just abject failure. Is there any way to put this offense? It's just been.
Oh, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. This offense is a disaster. And people want to imagine that, like, you put the kid in and it's going to get magically better because he's good. He has been good. For 2 games, he's been good. But in those 2 games, I mean, this style of offense, that Claypool interception is the one, to me, that gets me, because it's like everything wrong about this offense wrapped up into one, right? We severely overrate the talent of the Steelers receiving corps. Severely overrated. I'm the biggest believer in Deontay Johnson. But, at some point, like, we just... as many times as Deontay is going to tell you or tell us who he is, at some point we just have to believe it, right? Like, okay, if you're not going to be a reliable guy, you're not a reliable guy, right? So he's not a number 1. And then Chase Claypool is just a disaster of a player. I've never been more out on a player than I am of Chase Claypool. But let's go to that play where Kenny throws the interception to on the ball to Claypool. That's a ball where Kenny has to throw it into double coverage because it's a too high look that the defense is giving them. There's no too high beaters underneath. So there's nothing underneath that Kenny can go to. He basically has to throw to Claypool in a jump ball situation or throw it out of bounds. So Kenny decides, all right, screw it. I'll take my chances because, hey, Claypool's 6'4", 240. He should be able to beat a 5'8" safety in a jump ball situation. So he has to just throw it up there. He does. Of course, Claypool will never go up there and win a 50-50 ball like that, even against a 5'8" corner. It gets tipped up and intercepted. But that's a situation where the play design is bad, and then somehow the execution of the bad play is just as bad, where Claypool can't go up. Yeah, can't go up and get it. So, and it turns into an interception. So again, what quarterback am I putting into that play in those kind of situations that's going to come out with positive results? It's not Ben Roethlisberger. It's not Mitch Trubisky. And I'm sorry, Steeler fans, I have a hard time believing that like Kenny Pickett's going to come in here and just change the entire fortunes of this offense.
You're 100% right. Kenny Pickett has impressed the hell out of me up to this point.
Yeah.
I told Dave in the last 2 podcasts ago, we knew that Kenny Pickett was capable. This is what he did in college. This is the player he was in college, and he's the exact same player. And that usually takes time to translate, or sometimes never translates. But he's hit the ground running. That was my point when I lost my shit during the draft. It's like, they just got a quarterback that's going to make us 9-8 because this is all he is. I don't know his ceiling and floor. He is one of those low ceiling, high floor guys. Maybe his ceiling's higher than I think. But he's impressed the hell out of me because he is that guy. Right. And maybe if he can build on that, he can raise his ceiling and be a very good NFL quarterback. But you're right. Until the offense has changed, there's very few quarterbacks that can make a difference in this. You've got Chase Claypool, who's regressed to the point where he's barely playable.
We got to start seeing Steven Sims as a slot receiver,
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And maybe, look, and I know Matt Canada doesn't want to upset a moving train. This offense is going so well right now. It's really hard to imagine how you could work in a player like Calvin Austin and his 4.2 speed. It's just, I can't. I mean, how can Canada figure that out? It's just too much to ask, especially given how great this offense is. Where would we find a place for him?
Has there ever been a quote that more encapsulates a coordinator than that quote? I don't know how to use. I'm not sure I know how to use a 4.2 speed weapon.
He missed team development. It's like, dude, the guy runs 4.2. I saw him in camp. I saw how you're going to use him. Just use him in all those ways. Wide receiver screens, end arounds, right? The over player on a play action rollout, right? I mean, like, just use him in those ways. It's very simple. This is not rocket science. Use him out of the backfield, as a little swing pass guy. Canada actually had some really creative ways to use Calvin Austin in camp. And it was one of the more exciting parts of this offense in camp. Obviously, him getting hurt means they haven't used him yet, but Canada knows how to use him. Canada knows how to use Calvin.
So what's it? Is it Tomlin doesn't want to put him in yet?
I have no idea.
How conservative they are about, he's missed time and this and that. Give him a package of 15 plays, of 15 possible plays. You don't have to use them 15 times, but, or even 5 plays. Get him out there, spark the offense, do something. We were screaming for this last week against Buffalo. They needed something. You're going into Buffalo. You have very little chance of winning. You need something.
Yeah. Yeah, but instead they went in and they decided they were going to be about as conservative on offense as you could be. We're just going to go run, pass. How many run, pass drives did they have in a row? Because it was like field goal drive, and then run, pass. It was run, pass 3 times in a row, was it? All of those were 3 and outs.
As many times as I can barely stand without breaking my TV. I can't take the 2 Najee up the middle. Then you're in 3rd and 8, and now there's no imagination, so we've got no play. We'll do a sprint out and a curl for 6 yards and get off the field and punt. It's
right. I mean, like, Buffalo is the best defense in the league, and so you're constantly putting Kenny's back up against the wall. Like, all right, you got to convert in 3rd and long against a highly disciplined, really well coached, best defense in the league, and with one of the best pass rushes in the league too. So you can't, the kind of Kenny YOLO just going to roll around and do stuff like.
No,
Not against
them.
Von Miller. You're not doing that.
And this week now, to bring it full circle, the Bucs defense, maybe not as good as Buffalo, but pretty close. It's a tough unit to go up against.
Yeah.
At least they're at home this week, but do you see him even scoring 20 points this week? I can't.
I actually have this really bad feeling that this is going to be like an atrociously bad Kenny game, because remember what Kenny hasn't seen yet is true disguise, right? He hasn't had to at all three levels read and diagnose and like, what am I doing? Right. Meaning that I got to change protection because there's some kind of exotic blitz coming. And then I got to figure out what coverage they're in and where my hot is and all, everything that all the stuff you have to do as a quarterback, he's gonna have to be asked to do it all this week because Todd Bowles is bringing the blitz and he's gonna bring a lot of simulated stuff, right? And he's gonna whether it's bringing 6 or dropping 8, he's gonna do all of it and try to confuse Kenny. So it's gonna be a big week for him to see like where is Kenny. You talked about Kenny's exactly the same guy as he was at Pitt, and I agree with that. And it's been one of the most impressive things about Kenny. If Kenny doesn't screw it up this week, I think I started talking about this on my podcast this week. And I know it's too early, but I do think I'm going to start changing the conversation about Kenny from is he a good quarterback to how good is Kenny Pickett? Because if the Steelers are going to be really bad this year, and I think they are going to have a chance to do a little quick upgrade at the position if they want to. I don't think the Steelers are that kind of organization, but you can't deny the talent that's coming out this year. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and I guess people like Will Levis. I don't, but you can't deny that these are generational guys. I mean, like, Bryce Young, I know he's a small guy, but man, his ability to win outside of structure, he looks like the kind of player who you could plug and play into an NFL offense and be like another Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, like magician type of quarterback out there. So if you're in line for that, you got to figure out what you have in Kenny.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have quite a decision. If this goes south as we think it will, and their top 5 pick, obviously, if you're in the top 5, you have the ammunition to move up and get to get almost, because you got at least 2 real quarterback, maybe 3. Yeah, I mean, what do? I know what the Steelers do. They don't take a quarterback. They don't take a quarterback.
But the other options are really good too, though.
Yeah, absolutely. They could get, like you said, that defensive end from was it Alabama?
Will Anderson?
Oh, yeah.
If the Steelers got Will Anderson to pair alongside TJ Watt, and you put Highsmith as your third edge rusher, right?
Yep.
My goodness gracious. You get that for 5 years. You got him on a 5th-year option too.
Yep.
Sign me up.
God forbid, do you draft a left tackle in the first round?
Kid from Northwestern.
Yes.
Love him. Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways they could go. Hopefully Kenny shows us enough where I don't want to be 3 years down the line and watching one of these quarterbacks killing it, like absolutely killing it, generational type guys. Yeah. And we passed on him to take a left tackle and we're good. And we're 9-8.
Yeah. It's the biggest fear I had when they took Kenny. I never thought Kenny was going to be a bust. The reason why I was so sad on AFC North Talk and so sad after they took Kenny is because I thought, look, you just signed up for Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill, Andy Dalton.
That was my point too. Yes.
Yeah, that's what you signed yourself up for. So, okay, I'm going to enjoy the ride up, right? People, are like, oh, Tony, you're on the Kenny Pickett hype train. Yeah, I'm on the hype train as long as it's going up. But if it stops too early, if I needed to get to here, if we stop down here, right? If the Kenny hype train stops, okay, I'm off. I get off the bandwagon. Like, nope, he needed to get up here. And that's my big fear is I don't know that he's going to get there. And that's why I say I want to change the conversation about Kenny at some point. Can't just be, wow, Kenny's good. Kenny's better than Trubisky. It's like, how good is Kenny? Does Kenny ever project to be even close to an elite NFL quarterback? Because if you're not getting elite, you're not winning a Super Bowl. And the goal of an NFL team is to win a Super Bowl.
That was my point. That was exactly my point. That's why I was in favor of signing Mitch Trubisky. It's like, all right, just go YOLO. Right. Top 3 overall pick. Let's see if he's got any magic in him. If not, the season's a waste anyway. And then you go get one of these talented. Everyone knew last year that this coming season was the quarterback draft. Right. And last year it wasn't. Everyone knew it. So, roll the dice with
the next 2, by the way, because the one after that is even looking just as good. Yeah. Caleb Williams.
Exactly. So the 1 year that it's like dearth of quarterbacks, and only one taken in the first 3 rounds, right? It's the year the Steelers drafted, and they could have used that draft pick and that draft to bolster the roster, get a little better, develop those players, and then go get their quarterback.
Yep.
And like I said, and if Mitch Trubisky hits, then heck, you struck gold. Great. Move on. Maybe we can win because he's a top 3 pick and he's athletic and he's this and that. What we come to find out is he can't read defenses. He's just not that guy.
Well, they also didn't design an offense to you. I really feel like that's one of the things like the fact that this team chose to take Mitch Trubisky and put him into the same offense. Yeah, Mitch Trubisky can't read defenses, but you could see that on tape in Chicago, right? Like whoever decided in the front office, you know who's good to run the Matt Canada offense? Mitch Trubisky. Like that person should be fired. Right. So because you're a moron if you thought that you were going to go in. Matt Canada's offense is all about windows, right? It's like it's very much, it's slant flat, right? So your ability to read where is the linebacker going to stay on the slant or is he going to the flat? And wherever he goes, you go opposite, right? I mean, it's that kind of stuff where you're just reading, diagnosing, okay, I got to go here with the football. Mitch is very much a player where you have to kind of get him on the run and just give him very simple high-low, right? It's a high-low concept. If they're here, you go there. That's it. Where it's it's like it's dumbed down as it can be and it's all moving. You know what offense it is? Arthur Smith, the Atlanta Falcons, Marcus Mariota. Mariota's not good this year. Mariota sucks. And everybody knows Mariota sucks. But they're putting Mariota in a position where he can at least do some things. He can be interesting, even if it's not good. The Steelers never did anything interesting with Mitch Trubisky.
No, they took Mitch Trubisky, his worst assets, and tried to use that as their. It's like there were no rollouts, there were no design quarterback runs. I mean, they did a little bit towards the end, but
the only rollouts they did was sprint right, which is just okay. You're going to sprint right and throw an out route. Like that's not.
Yep, that's all they did. And Dave and I, we just lost our minds every game. It's like design something to take advantage of his strengths. Get him out of the pocket, roll him out, do what Philly's doing with Jalen Hurts, roll him out, have a couple quarterback design runs. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. You got Kenny Pickett waiting, who's better anyway.
Right.
Do something, but they
run the most. Like Atlanta is like setting records right now for the most play action run. Do that stuff.
Yep.
I mean, again, do something that's you have to zag. When everyone else is zigging, you zag. But they just decided, we'll just put him into the same offense and it'll be better.
We'll try to make him a pocket passer.
It sounds like he wants to play again, though. Maybe they bring him back. Maybe
who is it?
You listen to Ben's podcast?
Oh my God.
That sounds like he got run out of town. He said, hey, listen, they didn't want me back. So I knew it was my last year. I didn't want to go anywhere else. Sounds like he still wanted to play. Bring him back.
Half of me really thought that he would end up in Dallas. Half of me really thought that when Dak Prescott got hurt, he's like, I'm going to call Jerry Jones right now and sign a contract because he's dying to play. He's dying to play.
I think he is. Ben is dying for the spotlight.
Yes.
So
he misses that. Something fierce. Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh God. All right. I think we've beaten this to death. I think we've depressed.
We went all over the place today. Loved it. Today was a lot of fun. I know you wanted to preview the game. I apologize. We didn't really get to it.
That's all right. I mean, we know. We went over the basics for offense and defense. I mean, this is going to be. I don't know how much we can talk around a blowout at this point. I don't see any other outcome. Yeah. It's Tom Brady against a JV defense,
right?
And it's a rookie quarterback against a good Tampa offense. What are we expecting here?
Right. Yeah, and my only thing is, I think if I'm a Steeler fan, don't feel like if you're listening to this, don't get too upset if Kenny does have like a disastrous performance. Like if this absolutely. Is like 10 of 31, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and it's like, this is going to be the first time Kenny has looked so poised all the time. Everything it's like, I've compared it to Groundhog Day, right? That scene in Groundhog Day when he just knew everything that was going to happen. That's how Kenny feels like when he takes a snap, exactly where he's going. It's just, he's just going through the motions. He's yet to face a defense that's really out there trying to confuse him. In preseason, you're never going to see that stuff because it's preseason. The Jets are like the worst defense in the league, so they're out of the equation. And then the Buffalo, they're a great defense, but they do what they do, right? They're going to stay in nickel. They're going to run a lot of too high. They do what they do because they're good at it. Tampa is going to throw a lot of different stuff at him. This is the first time he's going to see that. And it's a good defense, and it's an aggressive defense. If he's bad this week, I'm not going to hold it too much against him. Obviously, it's a setback, but I'm not going to be shocked if this is the first time we see Kenny really look human.
Yeah, you're right. You make a good point because Buffalo is kind of vanilla. They're really good at what they do. And you're right. They don't come out of nickel too often. They dare you to try to force them out of nickel. And
right.
They get around talent and discipline and that stuff more than scheming up exotic
communication.
Stuff
Yeah, exactly.
Communication. Exactly. Yes.
They're really good at as far as being well coached and understanding your tendencies and what you like to do in certain situations. So yeah. I mean, that's how they get away with it. Tampa, on the other hand, they're coming at you.
Yep.
8th highest blitz percentage in the league. They're coming.
They're going to fake blitz. They're going to show blitz and come out. They're going to blitz. They're going to show everything.
They'll blitz guys and drop linemen into coverage so that you don't see it. You know, I mean, they're going to do a lot of that stuff, man. This is going to be Kenny's biggest test thus far.
And without any fear of any running game to boot, it's Kenny's up against it this week. You got to.
Okay, so Tomlin said we want. I know you're trying to wrap up, and I apologize.
No. Let's do it. Keep going.
Tomlin said changes are coming. You know, and obviously depth chart there was no changes. Coaching, no changes. Don't you think though that the change he's talking about is potentially Jaylen Warren is going to get significantly more reps? I
did think that until Najee talked about the boot and 100% and the medal thing. I think obviously Jaylen Warren is a better back to have in this game because his blitz pickup is like 1,000% better than Najee's is at this point. I mean, this guy not only just reading where he's supposed to be, but he knocks guys' heads off on top of it. But I think Mike Tomlin loves Najee Harris to the point where it's ridiculous. Like he loves, we all know how much Mike Tomlin wants is one back that he can grind into, dust.
Yep.
By the end, he wants Najee Harris back in there. And he wants him. I don't know if that's going to be the change. If he was still
hasn't. I mean, to Tomlin's credit, he hasn't done that yet. As far as like making Najee the bell cow this year. Now, obviously, I think Tomlin knowing that Najee was not 100% played into the fact that Warren got so many carries. But I just don't. I'm going to give Mike Tomlin the benefit of the doubt here, right? Like we've been very critical of him today, but at the end of the day, I still think Mike Tomlin is a good football coach, and I still want him to be the coach of this team going forward. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt to understand Jaylen Warren is the better option right now. I don't care about injury, not injury, right? This is not a great offensive line. And the problem I have with Najee, I'll use the old, every fan says this about running backs, right? Too much dancing. Everybody said too much dancing, right? Yep. Okay, well, this is the case where I actually agree. Too much dancing with Najee. I'm sorry, Najee. I understand you wanna. Oh, we're gonna bounce this one outside because I'm gonna take a 2-yard gain, turn into a 5-yard gain. No, you're not. This offensive line, this offense sucks. You're not turning 2 yards into 5 yards. Take the 2 yards because what you end up doing a lot of the time, Najee, is you take what could be a 3 or 4 yard gain and turn it into a 1 or 2 yard gain or even a negative gain.
A negative play, yep.
With all of the kind of, what I love about Warren is he's perfect for this style of offense. It's a bad offensive line. It's bad offense. You just got to take what they give him. And no one hits the hole harder than Jaylen Warren does. He is a go guy. And he does not shy away from contact either, which just as a Steeler fan makes me feel good because
it gives us something to hold on to when these games are going south. You can see Jaylen Warren knock somebody's head off and like, all right, well, at least there's something. Someone is.
Right. I'm watching Kenny fight defensive tackles. I mean, that's listen, get whatever. I'll take the wins you can get.
Yeah, James Daniels protecting his quarterback. Imagine
Loved it. Oh,
I tweeted it. He went from here to through the roof as one of my favorite Steelers after that play.
Yeah, exactly. Like they should be inducting him in the Hall of Honor this week.
Absolutely.
At Acrisure.
Because there was times, was it last year or 2 years ago when Ben Roethlisberger was laying on the ground last year and they wouldn't even acknowledge his presence. They would just turn their backs and go to huddle up. So that's at least something different.
This offense has certainly rallied around Kenny. That's a cool part of Kenny Pickett's game is that, when you talk about the quarterback is just as much about off the field stuff as it is on, right? All the intangibles and everything, getting guys to believe in you and want to play for you. Look, this team was rallying around Kenny Pickett before he ever stepped foot on a football field, right? I mean, all those comments by the wide receivers while Trubisky was still in there, all the frustration on the sideline while Trubisky was still in there, they were ready. I mean, this team was ready to go for Kenny Pickett. And it showed in that Jets game when he got in the game, how excited everybody is. This team rallies around Kenny, and that is really cool.
So what took so long? If you saw it, if the players saw it, if I saw it, what took so long to make the change? Was it Tomlin, trying to stick by his original thing? I'm not going to change for change's sake. I'm not going to change like the wind. I'm going to stick with Mitch.
Yeah.
Is he just too stubborn? Because towards the end of that preseason, we knew who the better quarterback was. There was let's put it this way, who the better fit for Canada's offense was.
Yeah. Who the better fit? Exactly. That's the point. The better fit. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's where I'll agree with you.
We all knew it. The receivers were dying for him to get on the field. They were biting their tongue every press conference. And the Floridas were trying to bait them, and they didn't go for it too much. But what took Tomlin so long to make this decision? If Kenny Pickett plays against the Patriots, do they win that game?
Yes.
If he starts the Jets game,
okay. If he comes in like the third quarter of like Belichick, no time to prepare for Kenny.
A good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yes.
Right. You gotta. It's like Batman, right? It's like, as long as you don't give him time to prepare, you're fine.
Good point. Yes. Yeah.
But okay. So to your question, what took so long? I'm gonna turn this back. I'm shocked it took so little time. My co-host on AC North Talk gave me a lot of crap about this because I told them all off season, I'm like, Kenny's not starting. There's no way Kenny's starting. Right? They're out training again, telling them the whole time, Kenny's not coming in, guys. The one guy who does our graphics put Kenny as the Steelers player. We do 4 players, right? They put Kenny as the player. I'm like, why are you putting Kenny? Kenny might not play till next year, right? I gave Tomlin the benefit of the doubt that he's not going to be as dumb on his quarterback competition. Do you remember what Bill Cowher did back in 1997 with Jim Miller?
Oh, do I?
Okay. So I mean, that was like, this is like formative years for me, right? I was like 12 at the time. I started watching football. The first years I can really remember are 94 and 95. So 97, it's Neil O'Donnell's gone it was 96, right? Because it was post Neil, open competition. Jim Miller, Mike Tomczak, and Cordell Stewart. And Jim Miller wins. Jim Miller I'm like, oh my God, Jim Miller won. I can't believe it. And neither could Bill Cowher because he lasted about a half of football. He lasted one half. It was the dumbest quarterback competition maybe in NFL history, right? So I gave Tomlin the benefit of the doubt. Like, he's not going to, come on. Tomlin's not going to do that crap. So I thought bye week is the earliest I could really imagine it, especially when it didn't happen after Cleveland. You got 10 days to prep. This is the time to do it.
Yeah. We talked about that. Was a window of opportunity. And you're right. It didn't seem like, it's just the Jets game got so bad, right? It just got so bad that and this is what I hate about Tomlin. This is my big, number one criticism. Number 2 criticism is he's a coward in-game manager. But number 1 criticism of Mike Tomlin is he is a results-oriented thinker. He is not a process-oriented guy. It's all about if things are going well, then what I did to get there must have been right. Good point.
I hate that. It is like the thing that bothers me the most is and it goes like the analytic stuff, the 4th down stuff. You're like, oh, Brandon Staley's a moron. I was like, well, he got that wrong. The 4th down call was bad, or not bad, but it went wrong for them, but it maybe not have been the right or the wrong call. Tomlin does the same kind of stuff, right? It's why I liked Boswell missing those kicks. In order to prove to Tomlin that he made the wrong decision, you have to have a bad outcome. Because if there's a good outcome, what's his whole thing? Throw style points out the window. Throw style points out the window, right? Throw style points out the window means, look, who cares how we got there as long as we won the game? But at the end of the day, it kind of does matter.
Yeah, it does matter.
There.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does matter.
You make a good point because I have my problems with Brandon Staley as well, but at least he has numbers and facts that back up his decisions.
You got to process.
He's playing the odds.
Yes.
He understands the odds. And Mike Tomlin is just from 1 minute to the next, you don't know what he's going to do. He's, not living in his fears. Like you said, kicking field goals when he's 21 points down. He'll go for it on 4th down in one situation, almost the exact same situation. He'll punt. You don't know from minute to minute what Tomlin's going to do.
Exactly. You have no feel for it because it's just kind of, finger in the air and like, we're just going to, let's see where the winds are blowing today. I don't know. It's all gut. It's the old Stephen Colbert joke, right? I feel it in my gut.
Oh,
That's Mike
that is a
Tomlin's
good
coaching.
point.
It's like it's his worst attribute. It really is his worst attribute. But lucky for us Steeler fans, okay, if he is a results oriented thinker, then if our thesis as fans is he's got this team headed down the wrong path, the only way for him to get out of that is for the results on the field to point him in the direction of, oh, I'm going the wrong direction. And seems like we're going, things are going to progress in such a way that he's going to have to figure that out one way or
I mean,
the
you
other.
just articulated my point earlier that I probably didn't explain it. If they somehow go 6-6 like we talked about, it could be complete accidental. It could be turnovers, injuries against other teams, and they end up 7-10, 8-9, and it's like, oh, we're all right. Keep Matt Canada, keep going the way we're going, and then we just got to live through this year after year because he is a good enough coach, and to get them to a certain point where it almost backs up his stubbornness. Where
right,
it's his ego. It's a lot of things, and you're right. We keep going back and forth on him. We both want him to stay, but he drives us crazy in the same.
No, look, I think he's a great football coach, a great football mind. I enjoy watching his teams, but is he a perfect coach? Is he like, does he not have any flaws? No.
No, absolutely.
He has real flaws, and there are real things about him that I think that he has gotten wrong. You talk about the defense thing, right? I mean, he got defense wrong for so many years. If he was really running the show and it wasn't Butler, all the miscommunication and all that stuff, again, to me, that's all coaching. So you got to get, I mean, like, there's one thing. It's one thing. Okay, we don't have a lot of talent, but like when guys are just running free, that's when you start to go, hold on, timeout. There's a real problem here. The Browns are dealing with this right now. And I talked to Quincy on AFC North Talk. He's our Browns guy over there all the time about this. It's like, dude, that's a coaching thing. Like that's got to be a coaching thing. Now Tomlin ended up figuring it out, and obviously, he got better talent as well. But that stuff, we don't have a lot of like complete miscommunication. The big plays that happened even last week were players making dumb choices in moments, right? For whatever reason, Trey Norwood on that long touchdown, the 98-yarder, tried to cut a crosser. Now, I don't know who was crossing. Did you see anybody crossing? Because I don't know where he was. I don't know what Trey Norwood was looking at. Gabe Davis was not going to cross. He was going straight. And again, even if Gabe Davis is going to cross, the guy is the fastest player on the field. You, Trey Norwood, run at your best a 4.7 40.
Yeah.
So he gets half a step behind you. I mean, Gabe Davis would do the whole like you remember when Tyreek Hill gave the peace sign to a player who was like even with him? I mean, that's Gabe Davis with Trey Norwood. Right? It's like if I'm even, I'm leaving.
Absolutely.
So,
And now Norwood's our starting free safety, I would assume.
Yes, of course. Well, Elijah Riley will probably get worked in there a little bit. I would imagine that they're going to have Edmonds play some free this week, because Edmonds at least is an athlete. And then I would guess that Norwood's going to come down in a dime, and then Riley's going to play safety alongside. So? That would be my guess. Yeah, Edmonds and Riley as your deep, and then Norwood's going to go down in dime.
Okay, I mean, I would feel a little bit better about that, because I'm kind of down on Norwood. I don't think he's a good football player. He's a 7th-round pick. That's what he is.
Yeah, and he's the kind of player that Mike Tomlin loves. If you listen to Tomlin's interview on the pivot that he did in the offseason, he talks about the kind of player he loves, which is a guy, in sports, it's very easy to find the superior athlete, right? Those guys are everywhere, right? But the guy who can stay in the league who is not an athlete, right? Where he is not just an average guy, he's a subpar athlete. Mm-hmm. How do those guys stick around? And those guys that do stick around are the ones that Tomlin really, he loves those guys. And the Steelers have 2 of them in that secondary right now. I mean, it's, Trey Norwood, who jury's still out on whether or not he can actually make it in this league, right? I mean, his second year on a rookie contract.
Borderline at best.
Yeah, borderline at best. Yeah, exactly. Then the other one is Levi Wallace, who I actually do like Levi Wallace. I think Levi Wallace is a fine player. It's just, you have to understand where are his strengths, which is playing in zone, playing off, eyes on the quarterback. Don't let him get behind you because you're a 4-6 player. Where he is not good, which is in man, where he has to run stride for stride with anybody. Because when he's in, he had that nice interception last week on Allen, where he had a perfect play on it. I think he's a really good corner, but he's very much a limited player in those ways. And so, when it comes to Norwood and Wallace and those guys, like whether it's Austin or Tomlin or whatever, they just got to understand where those guys fit best in this defense and how to put those guys in the most advantageous situations. They did last week, right? Norwood as kind of playing deep with Levi underneath. So we're going to have two guys who can kind of give each other help. And, then Trey Norwood makes a bad play and
he's not
all gets thrown out the window.
That's an experience too, right? It's just takes a bad angle or on a like you said, a 4.2 speed guy. You take a bad angle. It's
right.
Good night. Turn out the lights. And
especially with a quarterback like Josh Allen, biggest arm in the league. It's just like you just can't do these things. And I'm sure. Look, am I going to sit here today and say was Tomlin coaching Norwood to be more aggressive because he wanted to create turnover because that was a way to win this game, and that's why he tried to cut the crosser?
Could be.
Or did he preach, hey, we need to be more conservative here, like don't let them beat you deep? And Norwood just decided, like, I'm going to freelance here. I'm going to try and make a play because I'm a young player trying to make a name for myself, right? Like, I don't know. Can't be in the locker room.
Yeah, we'll never know for sure. And you're right on Levi. I'm not as high on Levi Wallace as you are. I heard your stuff about him, and you said you liked him. And he's good. I guess he's a good number 2 corner. Like you said, more in the zone scheme.
He's limited, super limited. I understand why you don't like him because, boy, there are going to be times where he's going to get beat and badly. But when he's in his element, I think he's a really good player. It's just the
construction of this cornerback group was just awful this offseason. It's just awful. I mean, you were depending on a Caleb Witherspoon to be a number 1 corner.
Yeah.
And there was no evidence to that. I mean, you had a pretty good second half of last season.
Right.
But then you add Wallace, who's a 2 at best. And then your depth is 0.
Oh, like Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton.
But Cam Sutton, I just see Cam Sutton as a slot guy. He's too valuable in the slot. I know they use him outside, but ideally he's in the slot, right?
In those nickel situations, you want him in the slot. Yeah.
So I think their plan was those 2 guys to be outside and Cam to be in the slot. And then the depth behind them is like James Pierre and who's the 3rd round pick that they cut?
Justin Lane. Lane trade.
That's your depth.
Yeah, not good.
How do you and then piggybacking on that, that the whole key to your defense is pressure.
Right.
And you do not have a backup for TJ Watt if something should happen, or Alex Highsmith. And you've got no rotation guy. You've got nothing. You panic and make a trade for Malik from Denver at the last minute, just before the season starts, because you're like, oh shit, we don't have any depth at outside linebacker.
That's a football justice thing, isn't it? It is
Absolutely.
Like football justice, because even I hand waved it away. It's like, look, if TJ gets hurt, this defense is screwed anyway. So like back up, schmack up, who cares? But boy, it is, it is football justice that no, he's getting hurt right away, right after you watch this. Like, it's like we got a little preview, like a sneak preview, like this defense could be really, really good. And then TJ goes down like, and then it all falls apart because you didn't have a backup. And look, I think they got burned by Melvin Ingram a year ago. And they didn't want to do that again, right? Another player who's going to come in and not want to be the 3rd guy. And you're going to have to, you have to convince him the entire time to stay here. I think they got burned by that, certainly. But then look, they had a good player in Jannard Avery. They did. I liked Jannard Avery in preseason. I know he wasn't good at maintaining his gap integrity in the running game. And certainly as a contained guy against mobile quarterbacks, not good either. But as a pure 3rd pass rusher, I liked him a little bit. Now he got cut from the Bucks too, so he didn't make it anywhere. Yeah, look, it wasn't like they cut an all-pro or anything. But you're right. You're right. I mean, they didn't really have an answer.
Avery was their answer, and he had his troubles in the run game, like you said. And
right,
draft somebody. Did we really need?
They got Leal. Leal plays a little edge now.
Out of necessity, yeah. Out of complete and utter desperation, yes, he's now playing, and he could be pretty good at that kind of role in some kind of role like that. But
sure,
there was a couple wasted draft picks. We didn't really need Calvin. I love to see Calvin Austin play and see if he could do something, but we're already 4 deep at receiver when they made that draft pick. Couldn't you find an edge there to develop?
Hold on, can we go back to this because it just kind of dawned on me today. They picked George Pickens and Calvin Austin.
Yes.
2 explosive players, right? One in George Pickens, who's like your classic number 1 bully type receiver. Even if it doesn't have the body type, that's the style he plays. And then Calvin Austin, who's a true burner down the football field. explosive players. And then Matt Canada's offense is like, well, we're gonna run a little slant here. Just like, it's like, why do the two sides of the organization not talk this offseason? Like, I know Kevin Colbert had one foot out the door, so this was like his last draft. Like, was he trying to tell Matt Canada and Tom, like, please, for the love of God, like, run something down the field?
Maybe.
Please run something. I'm going to give you some guys who, like, you just can't do this. You can't win this way. Please, God, go down the field.
I'm going to give you a couple players that you can't ignore.
Yeah,
and they did. Anyway, they still did.
But no, to your point about drafting an edge rusher, yeah, you figured you could have worked someone in somewhere.
I mean, yeah, it's frustrating to me because I'm a big edge guy. I mean, you need 3 in this day and age, especially with the Steelers play kind of undersized edges there.
Yep.
You need a rotation. You give these
guys next year when they get Will Anderson. Will Anderson adds a perfect rotation.
They won't do that either. You know that, Tony, right? Because they have Highsmith and Watts, so they're gonna ignore that position.
Remember, Tomlin told Chase Young back in the day.
Chase Young.
I'm never bad enough to get you. I'm never bad enough to get you, to get a guy like you.
That's a good point. I forgot about that quote. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'd be all for it. Either that or the left tackle. Or
left tackle would be nice. A little more boring, but probably like long-term sustaining the offense, right? Just, hey, it would be nice to have a left tackle that they could just rely on forever.
Or God forbid, a number 1 corner would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Rod Woodson. We've had a true number 1.
Ike Taylor. Maybe not not a true number 1, but
I guess you could say he was a number 1. Yeah,
he was he was like a 1.5, let's say.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, let's leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, okay, this is not a great corner class, but who's in this class, right? You know what corner is in this class? Joey Porter's kid.
I saw somebody bring that up on Twitter today. They said, he's good.
He's on Penn State. Yeah.
Hey, I'll take it. The Steelers love families and bloodlines and all that bullshit.
They'll move heaven and earth to get Joey Porter Jr. And he may fall to the second round because it's just not a great corner class. I mean, if the Steelers are picking top 5, I don't know that there's a top 5 corner in this class. Okay. This draft, if you're a top 5 pick, I think it's going to be quarterback. I mean, I think everyone's going to talk themselves into all 3 of these guys. And then Will Anderson's going up there, and then probably a tackle, right? Whether it's the Northwestern kid or the Ohio State kid. I think those are your 5 picks right there. Mm-hmm. So the Steelers have top 5. The other option, how would you feel about this? Trade out. Trade out of top 5. Trade out of the top 5.
Trade out.
And get
this is once in a lifetime, man. Oh, I hope once in a lifetime. I want a stud. I've heard that.
Oh yeah, you want the guy.
And I do get and normally I am a trade down guy. I like that idea. If it's, but damn, I want a stud, man. Either a stud left tackle or the edge, like you said. You're right. The cornerback class isn't very good. So yeah, give me one of those guys. Give me a Pro Bowler, knock on wood, for 10 years. And
yeah, especially it's so interesting that a generation, because like Will Anderson, for those of you who don't know Will Anderson, this is a generational edge rusher coming out. This guy was good. This guy was like the best edge rusher in college football when he was a freshman 2 years ago. I mean, this guy is just monster, and he's been good ever since. Still good this year. And by the way, they play Tennessee on Saturday, 3:30. Watch that one. It's gonna be a good game.
I will definitely be glued to my TV. Can you imagine him and Watt? It won't matter who plays corner for the Steelers. It won't matter who plays linebacker. They could roll Devin Bush out there all day long because it'll just be.
Yeah, it's like when the salary cap when like exploded in the NBA, and somehow like, oh, by the way, the Warriors have enough cap space now to sign Kevin Durant without losing any of their stars. Like if the Steelers screw around, they end up with a top 5 pick, and oh, by the way, we just happen to be in this quarterback heavy draft where everyone's going to be vying for a quarterback, and they can just happen to get an edge rusher who in any other year would be the number 1 overall pick. Would have been the number 1 overall pick this year. Wouldn't have been the number 1 overall pick with Burrow, but he would have been number 2, right? This is a guy who would be 1 or 2 in any class, and might be 4 in this year's class.
Absolutely, especially after last year's draft, right? These teams are quarterback hungry now. A lot of teams passed on quarterback because it was so bad. So now you can almost write it in ink that the top 3 is going to be quarterbacks. Maybe even somebody else sneaks in by the end of the year and it'll be top 4. You never know. I mean, There's a lot of quarterback needy teams.
But then the other thing is, you look at what people are giving up right now to move up. And, back in those quarterback drafts or when people are moving up to get them, and you look at some of the hauls that some of these teams got.
Yeah, you're right.
It's hard to turn that down. Are you talking about like 3 first-round picks to move down?
You're right. I mean, I'd have to see the deal. I could be talked into it. I could definitely be talked into it. If you could throw me a young edge that might be on your team and a couple of draft picks, then we'll talk, or a cornerback.
Yeah. Even if it's just like it doesn't have to be a great corner, but just like, a solid corner plus 2 or 3 firsts to move down to.
Say Carolina ended up 6, 7, 8. What would they give up for a quarterback after all this?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Failure. Exactly. They'd give up anything. You could just pick anything. So
right. And then so you go down to 6, you still end up with one of the tackles, right? So you go from like 3 to 6. They go up, they get Will Levis. You're going to end up being trash for another 15 years. And the Steelers end up with a stud left tackle that they can have for the next 15 years.
And they
get 3 first-round picks,
for dropping back one of their corners or something. Yeah, that would work quite nice.
Oh yeah, you really like J.C. Horn, right? I've heard you say you want to.
He's just an example, but yeah, I like him, and I just want an athletic number one, and he may not end up being a number one corner, but I think this team's starved for a good corner. It's been so long. We've been piecemealing this together. I mean, Joe Hayden was good, but he was past his prime. He actually ended up being pretty well, but
yeah. Steven Nelson had that 1 year of like, wow, Steven Nelson is great. And then that was a 1 year, very much a 1 year wonder.
Yeah. Give the Steelers credit. They moved on from him, and he didn't really, I think he's with the Eagles now, but he's not.
No, he didn't he move on again? He's with the I want to say he's with the Texans.
No, I didn't even hear
that. Let's see. Yeah, he's with the Texans now.
Wow. Didn't he spend the first, after the Steelers cut him, the first month or two without a job before he ended up hooking up with somebody that first year? The Steelers cut him? I think he did. It took him a while to catch on. Yeah,
he got cut in March and didn't get signed until July.
Yeah.
I'm on his Wikipedia page right now, so.
All right. Well, we'll wrap the show up. Dave and I usually do NFL picks. You up for it?
Let's do it. Are we doing these against the spread or just straight up?
Against the spread. I use
of course. Let's go.
I know you're a gambling guy, so
I'm a degenerate gambler. So,
yeah, I am as well.
Okay.
We call it legendary picks because we've been legendarily bad so far this season. So
always remember this, Dave. It's just as impressive to get everything wrong as it is to get everything right.
That should be our motto. I'm going to put that on the podcast header. All right, let's start out. Giants at home, getting 5.5 against the Ravens. What do you think?
He went to 5.5?
I use Bovada. They seem to be a little. I like that site. They seem to be a little different on their odds than.
May need to. I'm all in on the Ravens in this one. I think the Giants are unbelievably fake. You look at any advanced number from them, it's like they're either average or below average in everything except their running game. I understand, maybe Saquon's back. Dayball is doing a nice job. They're not a bad football team, but I think this Ravens team is still kind of a top tier team. I like the Ravens. I will lay the points even on the road.
I like Dayball as a coach.
Yeah,
he seems like he's going to be a good.
He's interesting. Yeah.
But I'm with you. Ravens are going to win this game. Saints at home, getting 2.5 from the Bengals. Taysom Hill went off last week, right? Oof.
Yeah, Taysom Hill running back. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is Andy Dalton revenge game. Andy Dalton is starting this one. Yeah. That back-to-back years of Andy Dalton revenge games, by the way, because Andy Dalton was on the Bears last year. Bears beat them. But Andy Dalton was hurt, I believe, in the first quarter of that football game. I'll take the Saints here. I have a policy with the Bengals right now. The Bengals, not only are they hitting massive regression, but they also, it's so easy to beat them. You just sit and cover 2, and the Bengals don't have any idea of how to beat it. The Saints have primarily been a too high shell type of team, whether it's quarters or cover 2. So yeah, Saints easy.
I was big on the Bengals and how they improved their offensive line, and that was going to be the missing link, and they were going to be great this year. The offensive line's played bad, and the Bengals have been very disappointing.
Yeah.
Having said all that, I think I'm going to take the Bengals anyway.
This could be a bounce back spot for them. I've looked at their schedule, and it just seems like this is the stretch where they actually turn it on. But I don't know. I have a policy. I'm not taking them until they can beat cover 2.
I got you. All right. Next up, Colts at home, given 2.5 to the Jags. How are the Colts giving points? I have something against the Indianapolis Colts. I have a deep hatred for them now because I picked them week 1 in my survivor pool, and they tied, and I got bounced out of my survivor pool. So I'm done with them. I'm taking the Jags. Even with Trevor Lawrence. What's going on with Trevor Lawrence? 4 turnovers against the Eagles, 2 interceptions last week.
Yeah. Yeah, I really thought, when Lawrence played against the Steelers in preseason, that was like an eye-opening, like, whoa, this kid could be real good, because he had some throws in that game that were not normal. I have no idea what to think about either of these teams. I think the Jaguars could be like a sneaky playoff type team. Then they go out and just lay an absolute egg against the Texans.
Awful, right? That AFC South, man, just throw it out.
It's just as bad as the AFC North, second worst division in football. I'll take the Colts because they're at home, and I don't know what to think about the Jaguars, but this is a division game, so anything can happen. But if I'm saying I only have to lay 2 with the home team, I'll lay 2.
All right, Cleveland Browns given 2.5 to the New England Patriots at home. No, the Browns are at home. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I had a hard time picking this one.
This is 1970s football. This is just going to be. I mean, this is going to be over in about an hour and a half. Army Navy going on here. It's just going to be moving clock, running clock.
Steelers fans walk to the nearest bridge in Pittsburgh, and there's plenty of them. If Bailey Zappi turns out to be a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett, will there be lines?
Underrated quarterback class. It's an underrated quarterback class.
Only the Patriots would find it, right? Too.
I actually like. If you go back on Locked On Steelers, I gave out Bailey Zappi as my underrated quarterback of the class. So
he's looked good so
far. Give myself a pat on the back. Western Kentucky.
I'm going to take the Patriots. I think Bill Belichick kind of figures out the Browns' one-dimensional running game. He shuts them down, and then it's.
Yep, I'm with you. Brissett has been very unclutched this year. He has an interception on a fourth quarter drive in every of their losses. The Patriots, Bill Belichick, like you said, this is a weird revenge game for them. They also have the curse of the elf. I don't know if you heard about this, but Browns fans are ready to get rid of that elf at midfield because they feel like it is a curse on their team, which I'm very happy to hear. And by the way, that Browns defense is trash. They can't defend the run. The Patriots are a run-heavy team.
Yes, good point.
Yeah, I'll take the Patriots.
I like the elf. Am I the only one that likes the elf? It's kind of nostalgic.
I thought it was kind of cool. They're going up retro. Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool.
But Packers given 7.5 to the Jets in Green Bay.
What do you think about the Packers?
Oh, I just said the same thing.
What's going on out here?
no weapons on offense other than their wide receiver group is not good.
It's all you. It's all just
Can I interest you in a Chase Claypool at the trade deadline? Are you interested, Green Bay?
Yeah. Do you want another disappointing young receiver?
I don't know where to go this one too. This is a tough one. I'm going to take Green Bay at home just because it's Green Bay at home.
I can't. There's no way I can lay more than a touchdown with these Packers right now.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to take the Jets. I was a Zach Wilson guy. Obviously, he did nothing last year, but this year he's been okay. I mean, I don't put a whole lot of stock into that win over the Dolphins, given that they were down to their third string quarterback at the end of that one. Although I guess he's their starter now. So, but no, I'm going to take the points for the Jets until the Packers prove me wrong.
Okay. Seahawks at home getting 2.5 against the Arizona Cardinals. I am not a Murray fan. I am out on. They're going to rue the day they signed that contract. They are going to fired over that.
Could be a coaching thing though, right? Kingsbury not exactly a great good offensive mind maybe. So maybe he comes in and it can be the OC, a Todd Haley effect. Huh? Former Cardinal coach comes over to be the Steelers OC.
Does have some symmetry to it.
Yeah, a little bit. Are you taking the Seahawks then?
Yes, I am. Seahawks at home. They've been frisky. They've been frisky.
I am too. I like this whole Geno. First of all, Geno Smith had the line of the year when he said they wrote me up. They wrote me off, but I didn't write back.
I didn't hear that. That's freaking good, man.
That was so good.
Wow, that's classic.
It's great. He said that after that Monday night win against Denver. They have a fun little offense going on over there in Seattle. Yeah, I'll take Seattle. Also, another young running back better than Najee Harris, Kenneth Walker III. I don't know if you've seen him in Seattle.
On record I'm on record with the Kenneth Murray. I mean, yeah, I'm on record. I liked him a lot.
Yeah. I'm sure you
So-
had a lot of fun last night watching Khalil Herbert go off for Chicago. 7th round pick from I believe that he was a VT guy, or was he a Louisiana guy?
I can't. VT, I think, right?
Was it Well, he was the VT one, right? There was another guy. Elijah Mitchell was the guy from Louisiana. He went.
Yeah, that's the one I bring up a lot to
Yeah,
tweet.
yeah. Well, you can add Khalil Herbert to your arsenal because he's also at this point a better back than Najee Harris.
Listen, I don't have to go any further than the Steelers roster to prove my point. Jaylen Warren, undrafted.
Did I say that the last time I was on your show? Did I say Warren? Did I debut that take here on another show when I said Jaylen Warren is why you don't take Najee Harris in the first round? Did I say that on this show?
I think you might have.
Okay.
I think you might have. I think we're of the same mind in that.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, Rams at home, giving 10 to the Panthers.
Ugh.
They've already fired their coach, Matt Rule. Talk about trading.
This is a crazy line. A double-digit line
Right?
for a Rams team that has maybe the worst offensive line in the league. Is Matt Stafford's elbow gone? I mean, my wife listens to his wife's podcast, and my wife's telling me all year, like, this is Stafford's last year. She's going to force him to retire. Like, he's definitely hurt, yada, yada. So, like,
He's
it's
taking a
not
beat
shocking
with
to me
his
the
career.
Rams have, it's not shocking to me the Rams have come in and been this sluggish to start. But then again, the Panthers probably are the worst team in the league, right? And then no Baker Mayfield in this one, which is that an upgrade, I guess, to
I think
PJ
that's
Walker?
an upgrade.
Yeah, maybe an upgrade.
I thought Baker Mayfield would do well in Carolina. I guess I was wrong on that one. I guess I'm off the Baker Mayfield for good. I don't think he's a terrible quarterback, but he just, I can't put my finger on it. He just turns the ball over too much.
Yeah. And everyone hates. I mean, he's just an a-hole.
Yeah.
He's just. I mean, you can clearly
that's
tell
it.
guys do not rally around him.
Mm-hmm.
And for like personal reasons, because I do AFC North talk, and everybody, obviously we have talked about Baker Mayfield on that show since its inception. And everybody, every single week on that show during the offseason, the Steelers should trade for Baker. The Steelers should trade for Baker.
No.
So thank goodness Kenny Pickett is definitively a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield at this point, and I never have to hear that crap again. That being said, I'm gonna lay the points here with the Rams. I don't know.
Are
Ugh.
you?
Ugh.
I'm gonna take the Panthers, and maybe they get that fired coach bump.
Yeah.
And come up with
If it were at home, I'd be with you, right? I mean, if it's at home, but if this is in LA, although I guess there'll be a lot of Panther fans there, right? Because LA doesn't, it's not like LA
really
exactly shows up. Yeah.
A really good game next. Chiefs at home, getting 2.5 from Buffalo. When was the last time the
I know.
Chiefs got points at home?
Home
That's
dogs.
Unheard of. Josh Allen against Mahomes, repeat of the playoff game last year.
Yeah. One of my favorite Twitter follows all offseason has, because this has been an offseason all about Burrow and Herbert and Josh Allen, right? You see these lists come out and Mahomes is like the 4th best quarterback in the league. He's like Mahomes. Yeah. So he's had this saying all year. Patrick Mahomes is the most underrated quarterback in the National Football League. And I love it. And I'm with, by the way, I have a Chiefs Super Bowl ticket. I think it's at like 12-1, which is insane that I got Patrick Mahomes to win the Super Bowl at 12-1. And I will, if you are telling me that I have Patrick Mahomes at home and I'm getting points, yep, the Bills are great. Every Steeler fan knows. We know how great the Bills are. They could have picked.
We saw that firsthand.
Yeah, they could have picked a number and put that on the scoreboard. Like whatever number they wanted to be on the scoreboard at the end of the game, it could have been there. But even still, I'll take Mahomes.
Okay, I think I'm going to go Buffalo. I really think this is the year. This is Buffalo's year. It's just unavoidable at this point. Yeah. They've got weapons galore. Josh Allen's so confident. I think their defense will play better than it did in the playoff game last year. Yeah, I think it's the Bills' year. I think they roll. No, I don't think they roll through the season. This will be a close game, but
yeah. But you're only laying 2.5, so it's even if it is, it's field goal game, you still win. Yeah.
Another good game. This is Sunday night. Eagles giving 6.5 to the Cowboys. Eagles at home. That's too much for me. I'm taking the Eagles might win, but I think the Cowboys at least cover.
That Cowboys defense is real good.
Legit.
Micah Parsons. Mm-hmm. Micah Parsons might be the best pass rusher in the league, not named TJ Watt. And I mean, he might be better than Myles Garrett. He is.
I think he is. I don't even think they're close.
Crazy.
I think he's better.
Yeah. But I don't know. Cooper Rush is still playing, right? So I don't think Dak's back yet.
No, they said Cooper Rush is going to play. So
yeah, okay. So Cooper Rush is going to play. Am I going to take Cooper Rush to cover 6.5 on the road on Sunday Night Football?
I think it's a little.
Doesn't Cooper Rush? Isn't Cooper Rush like just Andy Dalton? Isn't that who he remind you of? It's like Andy Dalton got reincarnated. and he became Cooper Rush.
But that's all Dallas needs, right? With all those weapons and the defense, and they just need somebody
Yeah.
to hook up.
No, I'm taking Philly. No, I'm taking Philly.
Okay.
Taking Philly.
Okay.
I like their coach, Sirianni or whatever his name is. I like. That's another young coach that I like. Yeah.
Guess what? We get to see the Broncos on prime time again. This
No.
time, it's in
Another one to
LA
miss.
against the Chargers. Chargers given 4.5.
Ooh, only 4.5.
Yeah, that's what I.
What does Vegas know? I mean, okay, so this you want to talk about bad coaching? Is Nathaniel Hackett the worst coach we've seen since Freddie Kitchens? I mean, he's giving Freddie Kitchens a run for his money, right?
Yeah, that's a. If you had to tell me to choose between the two, I don't know who I would.
I mean, you saw that they were in. I mean, this is in Mile High Stadium, and the home crowd is counting down the play clock because of how many delay games they took in that game.
Oh, it's bad.
I mean, that I think happened in week 2, by the way. I mean, this is 3 weeks ago this happened.
And how much are they on the hook for with Russell Wilson? Because he's
200 and something million. I mean, 230. Yeah. Kenny Pickett, by the way, better than Russell Wilson. That's another one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of wanted them to go and try to get Russell Wilson because I thought he still had something left, but man, he doesn't. He's been, maybe it's the coaching but he was this bad in Seattle too. We talked about it last week. Seattle was trying to peddle him last year before the season. They knew something. Pete Carroll's doing cartwheels in Seattle and getting rid of him, offloading, getting what he got for him and not having to pay him.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Chargers all the way in this one.
Yeah, see this is one of those lines that scare me because when I think of a line in my head, for this one, I probably would have had Chargers by 6.5, right? So when it's 2 points in the other direction, that's where alarm bells start to go off. Like Vegas, what do you know that I don't know?
That's the degenerate gambler in you. I feel it's the same.
Yeah, exactly. These lines scare me. When it feels too easy, that's when it's. I'm gonna take the Broncos. I don't know why. But Vegas knows something. The Chargers should win that game by 3 touchdowns.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. But
okay, that brings us to the Pittsburgh Steelers at home, getting 9 points. We keep making records. Yeah,
it went to 9?
And I saw somebody on Twitter say it got to 10 on some lines. So this one's getting.
Yeah, but it couldn't get high enough that you'd actually. It couldn't get high enough that you'd actually take the Steelers, right? No.
Just like last week against Buffalo, 14 wasn't enough for me.
Right.
And 9 is definitely not.
Yeah, this would have to get to like 14, 15 for me to start feeling like, all right, maybe the Steelers now. Yeah, I would. Brady to beat the Steelers by 9. Yeah, against this secondary, we've all seen this a million times. How are the Steelers getting pressure on Brady? I know that he doesn't move around, but the Steelers, when they bring pressure, it doesn't work. I mean, they got so many creative minds there. Flores brought so much creative pressure in Miami. Whether it was Butler or Tomlin that was doing the fire blitzes back in the day, that stuff's gone too. I mean, they're allergic to getting to the quarterback without TJ Watt. So if they don't get to Brady's going to pick apart this defense. And then the other question is I know their run defense is bad, or the Bucks run offense is bad, but that's probably Fournette's going to have some success in this game too. Mm-hmm. Then it all comes down to Kenny, and as I said, this is Kenny's most dangerous matchup. Give me Tampa for sure. Lay the points.
We usually pick a score, and I originally had 31-13 Bucks. I'm going to go 38-13 with these injuries now. I think they're gonna roll it.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's an assassin. He's going to roll it. He's going to run up the score.
Yeah. 38-6, 35-6, something like that. Yeah. That's what I have. I don't know if the Steelers get to 10 in this game.
Oh, yeah. You even. I mean, you could be right.
Look, I'm not saying Kenny's a bad quarterback. I like Kenny. Again, I'm on board as long as we're, but this is a tough matchup for him, and this offense sucks.
Yes. A lot of pain the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
Next 2 games at Miami and at Philly. Do they pick one of those off? Maybe the Miami game?
I'm going to the Miami game. I've never watched the Steelers win on the road, so
awesome.
No. They will not win.
You're going to jinx us? One chance?
I mean, I want to watch Kenny, right? My wife is already staying in the area, so we already have a place to stay down there because she's going to be down there. So I figured, all right, well, I can tag along. We can go to the Miami game. This is a good opportunity. But yeah, they probably will lose because of it. Last time I was at the Miami game, that was the one you might remember this one. That was one where they started with a Hayward Bay end around touchdown. They went up 8-0 because that was back when Tomlin would go for 2 all the time. Then Ben got hurt. Landry came in. It was a joke game, and Jay Ajayi ran for like 200 yards, and the Steelers lost.
That.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Jesus. Yeah. I mean, Tyreek Hill and Waddle against this secondary is
Minka better be rest up, because I don't want to watch Trey Norwood and Levi Wallace trying to take on either Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill. Although Tyreek Hill's hurt right now, so
yeah, he's a little gimpy. So maybe they catch a break there. But Tua's back, and then you go to Philly after that. Jesus Christ, the schedule.
Oh, did we pick the Vikings Dolphins? Why don't we pick the Vikings Dolphins game?
Oh, I missed that one.
We missed it.
You got a spread on that, so you can.
Yeah. It's Minnesota by 3 on the road. There's Minnesota's laying 3 on the road to Miami. And Skylar Thompson is starting this game.
I got to go with Minnesota, right? Skylar Thompson.
Yeah.
And Tyreek out too.
It could be Tyreek out too. Yeah. But you know what?
Even if he's not out, he's gimpy. Yeah.
I like the Vikings coach. I like O'Connell. I like what they're doing over there. Like their little offense they're running. They're making Kirk Cousins the best he can possibly be in a very Kevin Stefanski type way. But I love Mike McDaniel. He's my favorite coach in the league. Nerd coach is my boy. And I'm never going to turn my back on Nerd Boy.
I think my partner's sick of me bringing him up because I bring him up every week.
He's the best.
I really do like him.
He not only like, okay, so yeah, it's not hard to scheme up offense when you have 2 of the fastest guys in the league. I get that. But like he schemed up a hell of an offense with 2 of the fastest guys in the league. Right? I mean, like it's it's not just that they have 2 of the fastest guys in the league. Like he's scheming those dudes open. And making it real easy for Tua or I mean, remember, Teddy Bridgewater nearly beat Cincinnati. They were on the 25-yard line going in to score. And at the end of that one, Teddy throws it way behind the tight end. They could have won that game. So yeah, love McDaniel.
Same. So, but we're both picking the Vikings, you think? I'm picking the Vikings.
No, I'm taking the Dolphins. No. Oh, I'm not turning my back on Nerd. No. Nerd coach is my boy.
If Tua or even Bridgewater are playing, I'd definitely go with them.
Yeah.
The Vikings have a funny way of playing down to the competition, though. That's a strange team to me. They just
exactly. I have no idea what to think of the Vikings.
I liked O'Connell, and I thought they'd be really good this year. I actually picked them to go to the NFC Championship game with San Francisco this year. I don't know. They've been weird. Their record's good, but they've been weird.
Yeah, well, they just keep, everything's tight. Everything's tight with them, right? They nearly let the Lions get back into it. The Saints, same thing.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So.
All right. So we both have the Steelers losing again. They'll bring them to 1-5. When was the last time they were 1-5?
It's got to be the 6-10 year.
Yeah.
It's got to be Cowher's 6-10 year, right? Because it's got to be one of the 2 Cowher 6 and 10 years, because they were 0-3. What was the year that they went 8-8 and they started the year 0-3 and they ended up going 8-8, right? They weren't 1-5 that year.
No, I don't think they got to 1-5 that year.
That was what, 2011? No, 2012? No. One of those years. Okay. So they were 1-4. They lost their first 4. That was Le'Veon's rookie year, but they were 2. They ended up getting to 2-4. So they were not 1-5. No, 1-5 would have had to been either the year before Ben or that 6-10 year in between Cordell and then Kent Graham and that whole thing.
We got some dark times, man, and we might be headed there.
That's what I'm saying. Like Steeler fans these days, you and I are old enough to remember some really dark days in Pittsburgh, right? I mean, again, we talked about the Jim Miller thing earlier.
The 80s were. I'm 52, so I lived through. I have a vague memory of the late 70s Steelers. I do remember vaguely watching the Super Bowl with the Rams.
Okay,
that's some of my earliest football memories. But I lived through the 80s and Bubby Brister and some of that stuff, and yeah.
I mean, like Steeler fans, in some ways, I am happy now because look, there are legitimately Steeler fans in their 20s who have never watched this team have even a losing season.
Yep.
Right. Forget about like 1-4. Like they've never watched 7-9 before. So it's good because there's a little, for me within Steeler Nation, there's a little too much like, we just feel like every year should be a winning record. So this year, they get a little taste of what losing's like, and then we get Willie Anderson and we go back to 17-0. So
that would be Fantastic. All right. On that note, one positive note of the whole podcast. Follow Tony at what is it at Steelers Country on Twitter, right? Follow his
Steeler
YouTube.
Country. Steelers Country is a
Steeler.
different guy.
I'm sorry, yes, Steeler Country.
He's a cool guy, but yeah, Steeler Country. He's cooler.
Not as cool. Your YouTube stuff's fantastic too, dude. I watch it every week. You do a great
Appreciate
job
that.
at that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Hopefully my partner will be better. He's got a flu or something, so he can't barely talk right now. So, all right. Once again, thanks, Tony, and we'll see you next week.
Talk to you then.